Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's daily brief. Happy Monday morning. See if I can get all my screens up and running here. Give you a half decent report here for first thing Monday morning. As you can see on the screen, actually, I'm not even quite sure what we're showing here, so I got to make sure I can see the screen. With the Zoom calls, it's weird. It's like I can't even see what it is that you guys are actually seeing. So I have to wait for the YouTube page to load up. It looks like there's a few people over there. Happy January 23rd, just powering through this month. Actually, Chris has got me all zoomed in there. Maybe I'll move my chair down a little bit so you can see a bit better. But anyway, here we go. How can you tell this is live? Hey, I'm not a GBT robot or whatever the all that nonsense. If it's one thing that you definitely know for Brian is, especially if he throws in an F-bomb every once in a while, you definitely know he's real. So anyway, happy Monday morning. I'm kind of a mixed kind of market state right now. We did have breadth indicators roll over from a pretty extreme reading there, especially on the stock market there mid last week. But I see that we're rattling back up to the top of the end of the range. And if anything, this is a pretty good hallmark of a ranging market. I don't think we're necessarily trending. We're not really at extremes that set up huge trades. We're just sort of chopping back and forth, back and forth. That's sort of what it feels like to me. I thought, actually, I went and watched back yesterday's daily brief. Actually, no, it was the broiler chicken show. I have to say, I was pretty happy with the market commentary there, first hour, and then we went into the Q&A session, the second hour of the show. I was pretty pleased with the analysis. Long and short of it here, and interesting enough, I think Julian, probably the best commentator of this I've heard of late. Sort of the Bitcoin price marketplace as sort of a proxy on the broader sort of risk taker market is just going after liquidity pools, chopping, just blowing out weekend stops after a pretty dramatic drop in price. Keep in mind that was 1 year, one direction. And as I had said yesterday repeatedly, we have a Fed announcement coming up here, the end of January, beginning of February. It's like January 31st, February 1st meeting window, which technically is still another week away. This week, you might find you see some pretty wild action in the market that's not really econ driven. I know later on in the week, we're going to have the personal consumption expenditure report coming out, which is a pretty popular econ down in the States for the Fed to follow. So they'll probably take a lot of cues off of that. But in this sort of a waiting period, in fact, even when I was listening to Bloomberg on the drive with Liam yesterday, they were saying, well, the Fed is officially entering in its blackout mode. So don't expect to hear a hell of a lot from them until we actually get to the other side of this. The hints that they've been dropping lately are getting closer to the end of their rate heightening cycle. And of course, we've talked lots about this. The rate heightening cycle appears to be probably coming to a peak in raises in interest rates, a trough in bond prices, somewhere second quarter of this year. So we're a lot closer to the end of this rate increase cycle than we are the beginning. Thank heavens. And actually, that should bode well for people who are interested in taking risk in the market. So actually, on balance, a relatively light news day today, like econ wise. If we actually look at the economic calendar, I'm not quite sure what page I had that on. Oh yeah, here it is. we're supposed to spend about 5-10 minutes here in this report just looking at the news and the econs. Econs, like I said, didn't really see a hell of a lot coming down the pike that was sort of, jaw dropping or even market moving. We had first thing this morning, we had leading indicators, as Mr. Hoagland would often say, the misleading indicators. Anyway, interesting, down 1%. So actually, the bite of interest rate increases is taking effect. I'd also say too that hearing lots more news about sort of marginal players in the tech space laying off a whole bunch of people. But at the same time too, the companies that are rich and that are doing really well, things like Microsoft, they're throwing like billions of dollars at like ChatGPT. So you can't say that the big tech companies are hurting. If anything, they're just cutting out some of the fluff and the added sort of baggage that they took on to try and handle the overwhelming sort of demand through that sickness window there. So ebb and flow, but I mean, generally the news here today is there really isn't any earth-shattering econ news. Interesting to see like Canadian data still showing increases in housing market here in Canada. So technically you could make the argument that there were not really sort of, the economy is not grinding to a halt here. But at the same time too, the inflationary sort of runaway train that was sort of the case about 4 or 5 months ago is kind of put the genie back in the bottle. But we often say that energy prices are the ultimate leading indicator in sort of the commodity space. And when I was going sort of through my routine this morning, looking at the various different markets, something that jumped out at me was crude oil has gone and actually now put in a very well-defined W pattern. You might even say an inverted head and shoulders here, which is starting to paint upside projections. 2.618, which probably would be a sort of realistic initial rally objective. And of course, if we do things like reload zones and etc., notice that's right up against my favorite fib, the 78.6. Well, basically, this is telling us expect $100 a barrel again. Boo, this, boo. And of course, this will be interpreted as inflationary. So, if we do ratchet up even up into say 97, that's going to be $15 or about 20% higher than where we are currently, and that should be sort of very inflation pressury. Also too, and it's a little disappointing, and I suppose this takes us, why is this happening? If we head on over to the news, it almost sounds to me like Mr. Biden, of course, he's got this agenda, and it's actually interesting if you go through like the YouTube shorts and stuff like that. You see people have put together little clips of Trump cornering Biden, and Biden's basically hell bent on destroying the oil and energy industry. And also too, I think it serves the banksters' purpose, reflating the economy, that whole great reset. It wants oil prices as high as possible to punish the American citizens as much as possible. Way to go, Mr. Biden, thinking about the American working class guy. That's a good Democrat for you, right? Makes no sense at all whatsoever. It's like he's working for somebody else. But anyway, what I'm hearing is that he's going and picking a fight with Saudi Arabia now. And why the hell is he doing this? It doesn't make any sense at all. So, I mean, in the news, obviously, there was a pretty big event in California, mass shooting again. I suppose, the Democrats probably like this because then that'll get more sort of gun legislation and Second Amendment stuff going and all that crap again. But I think it was specifically pointed at the Asian community. And frankly speaking, it doesn't surprise me. I'm sure Joe Sixpack in North America probably doesn't like the Asianification of our society. And this is the kind of the reverberation that you're going to see back. And people are scratching their head going, oh, why on earth would he go after the Asian community? You don't have to think too hard about that. But nonetheless, violence is not acceptable regardless of reason. So I can understand that a huge portion of the news is going to be dominated by that. But I did see a couple reports and I was hearing sort of the rumblings, but it's interesting how it's kind of fallen by the wayside here. But I did find it fascinating that Mr. Biden was sort of picking fights with Saudi Arabia recently. And, that's probably going to cause oil prices. And then they were saying crazy things like, well, Mr. Biden's going to make up the difference with new energy deals with Venezuela. It's like, what? Out of the frying pan into the fire. You can't write better fiction than reality. And the irony of all this, I mean, this is more commentary than anything else. The irony of all of this is that this is just going to pave the road for Mr. Trump to come storming back here. I can already see it, especially on the YouTube sort of social media kind of the shorts thing, and I sit and watch those. I had a pretty tough night last night, so I was sitting there at like 3 o'clock in the morning, just sitting there doing nothing, nursing my bad shoulder. And you can already start to see the narrative being sort of laid out. Mr. Trump's going to basically say, I told you so. And all the Americans are going to be like, yeah, you're right. Get that skeleton out of the White House, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, we'll see how it goes. Only time will tell. So specific news, like I said, it's kind of interesting how I didn't see it here on the wires. I think the biggest thing, sort of international news that jumped out to me today was Mr. Biden's sort of picking a fight with Saudi Arabia here. I'm a bit surprised why I don't see this. Obviously, like I said, social wise, this horrific mass shooting in California is probably going to be dominating all of the major media outlets. I suppose something else that kind of jumped out at me, I made quick reference to it earlier. Interesting how Microsoft is basically stepping in on this ChatGPT thing. So now it's not going to be some blank screen that's talking back to you. It's going to be Billy Gates who's going to be telling you how to properly cook your steak and how to write a PHP code or Pine script code. Actually, that would be the one way to kill the ChatGPT is if they had his face on there. And actually, Connor even posted something out, which is pretty scary. This is how technology is going. This gentleman here, and I'm sort of guilty of this, right? Where I'm looking around, I look at this screen, I'm looking at the people in the chat room, I look at this screen, I'm looking at what's going on over on YouTube, and notice they've got software now that I guess what it does is it just makes your eyes like constantly focus right on the camera. So it's a little bit scary what's going on here. I'll tell you that much. It's a bit shocking. So I don't know. Maybe you're gonna. That'll probably cure one of my faults. I noticed that when I watch these things, I'm kind of, looking up and thinking and scratching my chin. Well, what's the best thing to say, kind of thing. So anyway, there's a sign of the future. Scary stuff. I'll tell you that much, by crackers. Anyway, so we got Fed coming up in about a week or so, which leaves a little bit of an open vacuum window. Interestingly enough, we saw Bitcoin jump up there late last week and then through the weekend and then just kind of stall. And if anything, what I saw out of the stock market is it looks like the same thing. They jumped up and now it's kind of stalling. Now, got a whole bunch of big tech company earnings coming out here in the next week or so. So most of the talk and most of the rhetoric I'm hearing in the market is anticipation around those earnings. And you can see if we look, you had your big jump up, and I get the feeling it's kind of like the stock market had to play catch up to crypto. I've told you repeatedly, and I really do believe this. And I think if anything, maybe we should build some sort of indicator that shows this. I think crypto is actually a good leading indicator. So this sort of last jump up that we saw there, and what is this, Monday, Sunday, Saturday, Friday, and then sort of Friday afternoon into Saturday, and Saturday itself kind of just non-event day. I get the impression that that's exactly what the stock market is doing right now, is it's just simply just sort of playing catch up. So it jumped up. That was the jump up late Friday, early Saturday that crypto just went through. And now you can see it's sort of consolidating. The S&Ps actually have a bit of a double top working. So does NASDAQ. And who are the culprits? Microsoft, Apple, Google, Facebook, interesting Tesla to a certain degree. And if I understand correctly, those are a lot of those kind of companies are coming up here or on the earnings docket. I'm not quite sure how we can do this. I guess this week, will that work? There we go. So you can see we got Microsoft, Visa, one of the big credit card company, Johnson & Johnson, Tesla, good old Musk. And actually, I don't even know how much involved. I tell you, whenever I watch these social media clips of Musk and stuff, he never talks fondly of managing Tesla. He always talks about it like this was such a pain in the ass to get this company going. So I do find that fascinating. I get the impression that he's done. Get me the hell out of there, on to the next one. I want to go play on Mars. So big semiconductor companies coming up here. And I noticed AMD was jumping up nicely. NVIDIA was jumping up nicely. So I'm sure Julian will have some comments about his NVIDIA. You know, I've always thought that a real lagger in this space, and that a stock that was really overdue for a rally. I mean, look at that chart. Who can tell me just on social media, what kind of formation do you see there? It should be pretty obvious. Let's see if anybody in the Zoom call here, what is this pattern? I mean, it's actually plain as day. If you've been around TRI long enough. No one? Anyone? Someone? Anyone? Well, yeah, I mean, it's a double bottom, but I would say it's a cup and handle formation. And very pretty. So Intel's an odd creature though, right? Intel has it never participated in this bull market, right? In fact, you can't even see on this chart, but we're basically like at the same levels it was during the dot-com boom. And never really did participate. But of course, with the repatriation of the semiconductor industry, I mean, it's fascinating to see how quickly the whole damn China story has just completely unwound. But it'd be interesting. I've thought long and hard, if anything, I'm almost tempted, you know, honestly, just to go and pick up some more of this stock here. It's a good looking chart, and that stock is long overdue to participate in this market. Anyway, so I think that the earnings conversation now, in this sort of lack of direction from like Fed speak, you know, they're probably going to be pretty quiet now. You probably won't hear too much out of them. I think that's probably going to be what drives price action here. And then of course, you know, what the hell does you know who do over there in Eastern Europe? So I don't really see a situation where we're overly you know, overtly, I don't know what's the right word, overbought or oversold in any of our sectors. If anything, little concerned that crypto and the bond market, of all things, are a little bit too uppy in the medium term. Probably need a bit of consolidation there. But in the short term, I don't really see anything that's alarm bell ringing. If anything, probably over the next week, we will see these things get bid up into overbought. It's interesting when it comes to the actual stock market, it's kind of just a neutral story, you know, and, you know, our 50 line is right here, and you can see that both of the sort of oscillator signals are kind of just sitting, you know, oscillating right around the 50 line. So I'd have to probably say that's probably the best interpretation of what's going on here right now. I suppose if you are an Elon fan, he is going through that trial right now. about sort of stock manipulation. It'd be interesting to see whether they drop the hammer on him on that. I don't think that's a case. This kind of reminds me of there was a story back in the 1990s, the cattle industry. Cattle prices were really low, grain prices are really high. So anybody who trades commodities knows exactly why that was happening. But the farmers needed an excuse to sort of vent their anger at low cattle prices. And Oprah Winfrey at the time was going on about the Atkins, or no, I guess it wasn't. It was the exact opposite. Something about how you're not allowed to eat steak or something along those lines. And so the cattle people, they actually took her to court and sued her. And it was a total kangaroo court. It was like down in southern Texas and stuff like that. So I get the feeling it's the same sort of thing. I don't know whether there's really a case to be had there. Anyway, and there you see the Microsoft investing billions into GBT chat. So it'll be interesting to see how this open AI morphs. And now you actually might even get like a negative reaction. Now, one thing that was interesting was Microsoft did a very large investment in Facebook, but stayed very in the background and didn't want any sort of, oh, Bill Gates is involved, stay the hell away from that stuff. So be interesting to see how Microsoft acts here going forward. More sort of commentary on the tech sector layoffs. I don't know if even, hey, it's interesting. Other than Joe Rogan, I don't really hear too much about Spotify. I think if anything, that was a great marketing coup for them. And then I suppose there's more sort of commentary on, if anything, I think through the whole sickness economy and then that transition into the sort of and I never get this right. I think it's Gen Z, I think is now the newest generation. I don't know. Anyway, how it sort of acts. Anyway, we're coming up on 9:25 here this morning, so I should probably keep moving this forward. New ideas? I don't know. I haven't really seen anything that sort of jumped out at me. The problem here is, you can see where the buy signals were. I mean, for whatever it's worth, the algo was, uber bullish. If we look at things like crypto, where the hell's crypto? Here it is. We turned up nicely back here. A little bit of a head fake here, and now we're kind of. I personally don't think that this is a healthy market to go buy. And you look at the price action. I mean, you can see. Anybody who's taken any of our education programs, it is plain as day where you should be long. Down, up, down, breakout. Right? It's just as simple as that. Then off the higher time frames, that's a breakout there. So, window there, window there. Algo's kind of warning, you better be careful. So I'm off on the algo trading plan. I'm off on the sidelines right now, just waiting for the algo to calm back down. And here we are up top here. Can I justify? Can I come to you and say, yeah, go buy Bitcoin, you'll do great, and there's no risk involved? Well, that would actually be pretty irresponsible, I think. Then also, too, now, unfortunately, with the fact that the market has moved up as much as it has, you're going to get a lot of people who are like, yeah, Bitcoin, crypto, it's all the rage. Right? I already start to see it. Starting to get moon boy talk and all that kind of stuff. I think this is a dangerous place to be a buyer, to be perfectly honest with you. And that's just my opinion, whatever it's worth. If we look at some of the altcoins, same sort of thing. Our Zulinski trade, good old Zugi sticks. He was pounding the table when we were looking at this down here. Okay, fine, cool. But now that it's more than doubled and it's up here, you want to come in on the buy side up here? That's kind of asking for trouble. Does this take the next week or so and slowly put in some sort of top? Same sort of thing on Bitcoin. Take the next week or so and slowly put in some sort of top around that Fed announcement. I could very easily see that. And then, usually, and actually this is a good sort of segue. Usually we have this thing called the January Barometer that sort of tells you what to expect for the year. So do I still have that? Oh, maybe I put it away. Darn. Oh, well, I put all those screens away. That was a knucklehead move. That's too bad. Anyway, January barometer screen I had up there. Maybe it's over here. Is this it? Hey, there it is. Cool. All right. So January barometer, we were kind of thinking initial first push down, push up mid-year, then dump into end of the year, look for that FU move against the lows, and then rally up strongly into the end of the year. So we had initial pullback, then big rally through middle of the month, then pullback. So we were kind of like right on schedule, and then woohoo, market took off to the upside here. Is this a bit of a surprise to me? Yeah, certainly wasn't expecting that. I suppose technically, good old 50% rules. I think, where am I taking this from? Yeah, that's off of that low. So just this range alone, we did what Mr. Gann would want to see happen. Interesting how we came right back down against this original little trend line here, put in a hell of a fight, and then right on the other side of the leaps expiry, jumped up. And kind of like what we saw out of Bitcoin, doing, let's go back over here. This chart, A, B, C, D, ultimate objective into Fed meeting up top. Again, maybe a bang up against 4669s and this high to low trend line. I could see it. And that would be this A, B, C, D. Of course, we've got all these corporate earnings coming out from, Microsofts and Visas and Johnson and Johnsons and Teslas and Intels and all that kind of stuff. If the earnings aren't so bad, we probably had sort of a situation that was kind of like buy the rumor, which is going on right now. And then once all these earnings reports are out and the Fed's done all it's okay, we're going to raise rates, whatever. Then we got to sell the news on the other side. I will say though, for January barometer fans, and interestingly enough, this kind of aligns with Mr. Williams's kind of thinking. He was thinking that this is 2023 going to be a pretty big up year. If anything, what we probably ought to do is try and figure out a decennial report and take the averages of all the years and put them all together, get an idea of what 2023 ought to look like, generally speaking. Could even go off of the bottom of this entire range here. And I would not be surprised if, especially buy when it snows, which is kind of what this trough was. This was the October, November. There's buy when it snows. We could also do another A, B, C, D off of here. All the way up top there, back down to there. And we could probably see some pretty big moves to the upside here. So on the ES 4400, so basically another 10% higher on the stock market. And interestingly enough, that will just take us right back up into sort of peaks that we saw last summer. So that wouldn't surprise me. I guess just the point here of January barometer, we'll come to these kind of objectives when we get to it. Here we are, sort of latter part of January. So this is going to be kind of like October, November, coming into December sort of report. In a weird sort of way, we did have the pullback and then a huge launch higher into the end of that first week. So maybe that's the pullback, and we're getting our huge launch higher into the end of the month. Here is the end of the month way over here. I mean, who knows where the hell this is going to take us. I wouldn't be surprised if it's ebb and flow, but it sure feels like the bulls got the ball right now. Eh? We just cleared through these highs. And of course, like we said, no real econ drivers here. It's going to be all about corporate earnings. And I suppose you could also argue too, off of this base, 2.618s, we hit that, did a nice consolidation, came back down, tested the original breakout level. It held. We reversed back up. So odds are we're probably going to have to go up to this 4669. which is somewhere up in this area. So actually that's probably a good, we'll keep an eye on this for the next week or so, but my hunch is they probably want to take the stock market up into this level, up into here somewhere. So I'll just keep that on the screen, and over the next few days we can keep an eye on that. So looks like up for now. I don't see any like major topping patterns. I suppose with the breakout to new highs, depending on how strong this breakout. Ooh, look at that. We got a whole bunch of fun going on. Breakouts happening. It's just slow and steady wins the race. Looks like, I mean, if anything, everybody should be happy, especially watching this show, is, it looks like the capitalist dream is still alive. So enjoy the ride. Let's see where we are now. Is stock market breaking out to new highs? I think stock market's pretty calm. Just bumping along here. I think a path of least resistance is still higher, not lower, unless there's some sort of bombshell dropped. And, like I said, there are charts that, we see a lot of crypto charts that are looking like this. The only problem is that actually a lot of the crypto names have already moved, so you can't really get in on them just now. But for my purposes, I can't buy that. I have to wait for some sort of consolidation and, like bot setups, all that kind of stuff. I don't know whether we're going to actually follow this market symmetry pattern. It doesn't look like it. Looks like that's off. We'll take that off for now. What I would just simply say is let's look for some sort of pivot over the next week or so in here. Path of least resistance is still up. And then once the Fed announcement is done, then we'll sort of reassess on any kind of pullback. And usually that's what, like the way the seasonal trade goes is it goes by the middle of February. So here is the middle of February, right in there. And you sell the middle of May, way over here. So I would expect some sort of pullback in here. This is Bitcoin in particular. I don't know what kind of pullback it'll be. Maybe it'll just be a sideways. But usually middle of February, there's some sort of consolidation. So anyway, that's sort of my summary for the day. That is about 9:35. So that's about a half an hour. Hopefully you got a pretty good idea of what we're looking at here over at TRI. I still don't think it's a good idea to chase here. Find your names, build your sort of shopping list. You can see all my shopping list. You can see how I had a name. I guess that was an alert off of this guy. Oh, yeah. So you can see I even put an alert on here, can buy on the double bottom. So you can see this guy's pressing higher here. If anything, that guy, I mean, you can see the W's. They're staring you right in the face. Question is, what do the indicators look like? We're starting to try and push higher. It'd be interesting if we can get a volume breakout here above 2.32 million. Right now sitting at 1.72. If you can get that move up through 3.2 on this up day and this thing's rocking and rolling, then hey, it's probably off to the races. So there's another, there's an example where one that's just setting up right now. Like I could potentially play this. Unfortunately, with some of these other ones, they've already run, and I just don't think it's in your best interest to chase. That one's a little hard to see. Really a good example is good old Zugi's name here. I don't think I can't come in on the buy side way up there. Like the other one that I just showed you, it's sort of like doing this kind of action right here. Is that what the POLS has in store in face? Notice the volume breakout here, right? That volume breakout was 1.32. And kind of like what I said on the other one, if you get your volume breakout above this high here, then, oh boy, all hell's going to break loose. And you can see that happened actually right on that bar right there, right? And that's the end result following. Boom, off she goes. So interesting how this actually just fired just as we were speaking here. Keep your eyes peeled, folks. Never a dull moment in this space. 1.84, somebody just come in. Look at that volume just churning on this thing. So there are names even breaking out as we speak. That's a cool report to do. You got one breaking out. So it'll be interesting. Somebody remind me in the next couple of days to take a look at this, and maybe in the after show, we'll dig in a little bit more into some of these other names and see if there are any other breakouts happening. Okay, I think we'll leave it at that. Hope you guys all enjoyed the free offering. Of course, consider popping on over for the after show, and PMA for the win. Slow and steady wins the race. This is a really good example of TRI working as a team and working as a group. This was Matador's idea. You can see the Matador weekly watch list. So, this is a perfect analogy of us all working together to try and find half decent trade ideas. So, PMA for the win. That's the whole point of why I put this thing in place together. The principles of buying W's and, don't buy overbought markets, risk management, they're pretty universal. I mean, anybody can really teach this stuff, but you're only as powerful as the people that you surround yourself with. And if we all work together, then we can make a difference in this world. And actually, to that end, I had 2 or 3 people asked to join this document. I would like to work over. No, I had a really weird dream last night. It was so bizarre. So actually, it is nothing compared to Japanese and cats. Anyway. All right. Got to stop talking. Have yourselves a great day. PMA for the win. We'll see you all again tomorrow. All the best and bye.